If you stay in Jiu-Jitsu long enough, there comes a moment when everything changes. Someone shows you a move that should be complicated. A grip sequence, a new angle, some micro adjustment. But this time, it just clicks. You hit it once, and then again, and again, and again. And everyone watching is wondering, where the hell did that come from? And you realize something that's subtle, but huge. Jiu-Jitsu is no longer something that you just do. It's something you've become, something that you are. That's the threshold that every craft hides. The quiet point where instinct takes over and movement becomes expression. Where the details stop feeling like noise, but more like rhythm, like music. And that's what we're talking about today. The moment you go from doing the thing to being the thing, and how it transforms you on and off the mat. Welcome to the Alchemy of Struggle, baby. So something hit me recently while going deeper into Deep Half. My instructor, Matt Sung Lee, calls me over and says, "Hey, I want to show you some stuff I've been working on." And even after spending many years and countless hours in half guard and deep half guard, what he showed me completely blew my mind. Very subtle, but game-changing. And within minutes, I was hitting it live, over and over again. And then last night, a few of us were going over the same sequence. And there was a new white belt there who joined in. And as I was working with him, he started asking me questions like, "Yeah, but where does my hand go? Which way do I turn? How do I know if I'm doing it right?" And the problem was pretty obvious to me. He lacks the foundation to understand this level of detail. So I told him, forget about all these details. Just focus on understanding what half guard is. Because the simple fact of the matter is this: you can't fine-tune an instrument that you haven't learned how to play. And here's a quick test to gauge where you are in your journey. I know that some of you are thinking, "Yeah, but what's the half guard detail? Show us the move." And then there are others who are just nodding, saying, "Yep, I totally get it." The first group, white belts and early blue belts. The second group, deep purple, probably heading towards brown. And that gap is the difference between doing and understanding. There's this quiet shift that happens with any craft if you stick with it long enough. Ralph Waldo Emerson, the great American essayist and philosopher, touched on this in his piece, The American Scholar. He said that in the right state, a true scholar becomes man thinking, as opposed to a mere thinker who just studies. What he was getting at is that, at some point, you move past blind imitation and the parroting of other people's ideas, and start creating from within. And that's when practice transforms into expression. And in Jiu-Jitsu, it's the shift from memorizing techniques to feeling where the leverage lives. That's probably not the crossover you expected, Emerson and half guard. But somehow, that's where I ended up. Many people like to quote the so-called 10,000 hour rule, but few understand what it really points to, as opposed to merely counting the hours or years that you spend in your craft. It's about compounding understanding over many years of slogging your way through it. And if you stay in the weeds long enough, your brain rewires itself around that craft. And in Jiu-Jitsu, you stop asking, "Where does my hand go?" And you start understanding where it should go. And the deeper you go, the less you think about yourself at all in the middle of a roll. As Emerson would say, the painter becomes the painting. The writer becomes the writing. And in Jiu-Jitsu, the grappler becomes the grappling. And that's what fine-tuning really is. Not layering on new tricks one on top of the other, but the slow disappearance of separation between you and the art. But here's the bad news for some of you. You can't force it. You can only earn it by committing yourself to years in the suck. You refine, you experiment, you retest and retest again. And that's when the art starts to reveal itself back to you. This idea that mastery is the merging of the practitioner with the practice. Whether we're talking about writing, painting, or jiu-jitsu. And if you study long enough and deep enough, the distance between you and the thing completely dissolves. And yeah, I know this sounds like a bunch of philosophical mumbo jumbo, but it isn't. It's the reality of pursuit. But only if you stay in the grind long enough to experience it. So this has actually shifted the way that I approach training. I've probably said it 1,000 times. If I could train just technique every day, I would. But then it hit me. I actually can. So I started rebuilding my training week around that idea. Now, most days are pure exploration, drilling, testing systems, and chasing micro adjustments. Now, I haven't given up hard sparring because you still need to pressure test, but now they're just more focused. Friday nights and Saturday open mats. That's when it's time to test against real pressure at full speed. But the rest of the week, I'm just exploring. And that small change opened up a whole new level of enjoyment for me on the mats. My body feels better and my mind stays sharp. And I leave the mats thinking instead of limping. And look, this isn't some earth-shattering discovery I've made. Firas Zahabi has been talking about this for years. And Rickson Gracie was known for really long training sessions, but at extremely low intensity. But there's a difference between hearing it and understanding it. And what I'm realizing is that fine-tuning doesn't just change how you roll. It changes how you think about long-term growth in Jiu-Jitsu itself. And that's the real evolution. Not more frequent and harder rolls, but deeper attention to detail and the larger systems at play. That subtle shift from chasing intensity to chasing mastery. From doing Jiu-Jitsu to being Jiu-Jitsu. And at some point, you'll realize that the next breakthrough isn't in another move or another tap, but in seeing that you might already have everything that you need to go deeper, right here, right now. And if any of this hit home, check out some of the free downloads in the description. Or if you want to go deeper with me into this journey, join the channel membership. And if you haven't seen it already, check out the video on this channel on why Jiu-Jitsu feels so hard. It'll be linked at the end of this video. And as always, I want to thank the subscribers and the members and all of those who comment on these videos for helping me level up this content. But remember, there are others who need this message, and they're probably in your own gyms. So let's help them find it. Like, share, and subscribe. Keep up the good fight and stay safe on those mats. Peace.